Hello, comic book lovers. I'm here today. What time is it? It's 12 o'clock noon. It's Father's Day. I'm going off upstairs to see my daughters in a few hours. Yeah, my two daughters. Anyway, I'm here today to talk to you about comic books. I'm going to tell you a few stories about comic books. I've been collecting comic books for a long time. Not that I have many comic books now, but I used to. I used to have thousands of them up until 1985. And I sold a whole bunch of them. I went and bought a house. Well, not to buy a house, but money for a house, money for a fridge, stove, and all that shit. There was only one way to do it. I didn't want to, but I did it. You know what? I kicked my ass every fucking day that I did that. What did it get me? Where did it get me? Selling all my comic books. Nowhere. Fuck all. Nowhere. So that was a mistake. So if you're thinking about selling your comic books, don't do it. Okay, back when I was 14 years old. 14 years old, 1965. I was walking along Queen Street. Bear with me. I was walking along Queen Street. Just pretend it's Queen Street wherever you guys live at. Girls too. You're walking along Queen Street. I'm down by University and Queen Street. I'm walking along Queen Street from Pape and Queen. I walked everywhere when I was 14. I walked up to Bloor Street. I walked to Bathurst Street. I walked everywhere. There you go. I'm not talking all day. So here I am walking along Queen Street. I'm on this side of Queen Street. I look over across the other side. And it's down by University and Queen Street, down where Cops still there now, I guess it's still there. That area, one of those two stores, back then it was all painted black. So I walk across the street, there's this new store there, I never noticed. I'm down there all the time, walking all over this place when you're 14. So I walk across the street, I look in the window. And I opened my mouth at him, I went, my God! You know what was in the window? Yeah, you waited long enough? Okay, I'm going to tell you what was in the window. In the fucking window. Superman, #1. Action Comics. It's 27. Superman, first appearance of Superman. Batman, what was it? No, Action Comics. I'm getting anyway, Action Comics, Superman, right? Batman, Detective Comics, right? And Batman #1 in the window, laying in the fucking window. And I stood there, and I was mesmerized. I should talk to myself more often. Anyway, 4 comic books. The fucking Grail today, you want to call it Grail today? In 1965, there was no such fucking thing as Grail, as far as I understand, right? Understood and all that shit, right? But when you saw them, you shit yourself, okay? Even then, back then, even I knew back then in 1965, those were the comic books. Those were the comic books. I went in and asked the guy, well, he wasn't that old, but you know, he was older than me. His name is George. Yeah, they called him Captain George Henderson. He had a store there. You know what it's full of? A magazine store. You think a second-hand bookstore. The fucking thing, the whole place was full of comic books. Everywhere you look, racks, stacks and racks of comic books. I shit myself. I never ever in my life, all the years I've been walking around the neighborhood buying pocketbooks and comic books, I ever saw that in my whole fucking life. The whole place was full of comic books. I talked to him about the comic books he had in the window. He said, they're in the window, they're on consignment. You can't show them to you unless you got money. You want to buy, you know, it's like, no, he's not going to show them to you. Right? So, 1965, those comic books were in the window. You know how much they were for? How much money he was selling them for this guy? Don, what was his name? Everybody knew him back then, comic book guy. He had thousands of comic books, this guy. Oh, for the life of me, I can't remember his name now. I think his first name was Don. Something Don. I don't know. Anyway, they were $500 a piece. $500. 500 bucks. $500 in 1965 for Superman #1. You know, Action Comics, Batman, you know, Detective Comics. 500 bucks each. I went, 500 bucks? Holy fuck, man, that's a lot of fucking money. Right? 1965, 500 bucks? Shit. I never saw 500 bucks. Okay, I saw a fucking $10 bill. These are $500. Yeah. 1965. I bought some I can't remember what I bought. You know, I spent money or dollar. But later on, he ended up moving up to Markham Street Village, right? Honest, what is his name? Honest Ed's, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, up there at Bathurst. Tore it down there. They're building a condo up there. But he was up there ever since I could remember, until a few years ago. And so in 1966, Captain George Henderson moved up to Markham Street Village and a comic book store up there for years. Memory Lane, right? So I went to school in 1966 up there in the Central Tech. I went to take art, commercial art, 1966. We were there every day after school. We bought fanzines, comic books, me and my two buddies. We put a fanzine out together called Red Dot, right? So we did that. I still got the fanzine, I'll show it to you. I mean, I probably showed it on my other channel, but I'm planning on doing it again. Anyway, Memory Lane up in Captain George Henderson. Most of you comic book collectors in Toronto or Canada or all over the world know Captain George Henderson. He later on he went into posters. He used to have posters at his store up there in Memory Lane. Yeah. So, yeah, and every Tuesday and Wednesdays, my two friends and I, we used to go to the variety store up on the Danforth, or Bloor Street, I should say, Bloor Street. And we used to go there and sit in there and look at the racks, comic books in the racks, and comic books down at the bottom, and sit there. We used to buy Gold Key comic books too. Magnus, the Robot Fighter, you know, and Tarzan. Yeah, they both collected comic books, and I collected comic books. So we got along quite well together now, didn't we? Anyway. So now, okay, so I've been buying comic books for these few years. Now it gets to the point where Conan #1 came out. I had 3 copies of Conan #1 then, around 1970 or something like that. And we used to trade comic books. We used to trade comic books, 1 for 1 or 2 for 1. No, none of this fucking bullshit, right? It was a comic book. A comic book. We collected comic books. We traded comic books back and forth to each other. We didn't ever give a fuck who was this, who's peeking around the corner at the end of the fucking page, who first appearance of this guy's, second appearance of this guy, that somebody did this guy, did all this shit, right? No, there's no such thing as any of that fucking bullshit, right? So I needed Howard the Duck #1. A buddy of mine came down to my place on Salter Street and traded me Howard the Duck #1. I gave him a Conan #1. Yeah. Yeah, that's how we rolled back then. I needed that comic book. He traded it. I gave him a Conan. He gave me a Howard the Duck. See how it works? Yeah. We used to send away for comic books in the mail. Rogowski, the guys that advertised in the comic books, in Marvel Comics and DC Comics, all those ads, right? I did. I sent away for all those ads or those things, the pamphlets or whatever they send you, price guides. I bought the second price guide, right? I bought the second price guide that came out. Now there's like, what is it, 50 of them now or whatever, 50 years later? But I bought that one. 1966, I ended up at the first comic book convention I ever went to was 1966 at Hart House, University of Toronto. You know what they had there? Take a guess what they had there. Yeah, did I give you a second? Yeah, they had comic books. And they had paperback books. Paperbacks. You know, Doc Savage, stuff like that, you know? All these old ace paperbacks, science fiction stuff like that. Didn't have any other fucking bullshit. I stopped going to conventions 5 years ago. Anyway, now it gets up to the point where, you know, I understand comic books are worth a lot of money. I understand that. I get it. I understand it. But if I had $10, if I had fucking $10, I'd buy an old comic book, something from the 60s, a Dell comic book, a Gold Key comic book, a DC, something for $10. You think I'd buy a $10 comic book today? No. If I bought a comic book from 1962, an old comic book, right, it still holds its value. Today's comic books for the last fucking 20 years, how do I know if it's going to hold? I can buy a comic book for $5, and next week, a month from now, it's on fucking eBay, starting bid 98 cents. It's all fucking bunch of bullshit, right? And ever since he started putting those comic books in those plastic fucking things and people sending them away and doing all this comic book stuff and those plastic stuff, man, that's a fucking downfall. How is it downfall of comic books? I don't give a fuck. Now, right, I understand. Comic books from the 1930s and now, there's not that many of them. So I understand supply and demand. I get it. You know what I mean? I understand that. I'd rather buy an old comic book than a new one, right? So now they put comic books in this plastic stuff. A fucking comic book 4 or 5 or 10 years ago you could find in the dollar bin for a fucking $1. Nobody bought it then anyway. All of a sudden they put it in plastic, or some fucking idiot decides that, oh, this shithead's going to be in a fucking movie, and they put it in a plastic container, and now it's selling for $1,000. And there's fucking idiots out there that buy this shit. They're fucking nuts, right? Yeah, Brother Voodoo, for instance. What the fuck? That thing wasn't worth money when they printed it and put it out, and then years later, it's still not worth any money until somebody says, oh, it's in a movie or some shit's in a movie, and you put it in a plastic container and sell it to some fucking sap for $2,000. There's a lot of comic books out there ain't worth shit just because they put them in a piece of fucking plastic. All of a sudden, yeah, it's $1,000. Oh, fucking madness. It's fucking madness. No, like the other day, it's like Conan number 23 or number 24. I have first appearance of Red Sonja and all this Red Sonja bullshit, right? You know what? In my Marvel book, for instance, I'm going to show you something. Conan the Barbarian. I need number 1. You think I'm ever going to fucking get number 1? I don't know. I don't think so, for the life of me. I had number 1 years ago. Remember that part, the story? But I sold it. Go buy a house and furniture and all that shit, right? Anyway, I need number 5. Yeah, I need number 5. I need number 23. I got number 24. I got them all. Well, I'm missing a couple of the higher numbers. What? So now you mean to tell me I can't get number 23? I'm never going to be able to get number 3 because you fucks all put it up to thousands of dollars now, or hundreds of dollars, or whatever it is. I'm still going to hunt for it. I'm still going to see if I can get it, you know. But yeah, now it's like, am I ever going to get Conan number 23? I don't know. You know, Conan. Everybody fucking knows Conan. Remember Conan? Just Conan. Yeah. I don't know. Comic books are out of hand. Remember 2008, 2007, they came out, Marvel came out with this storyline, that storyline, and DC did the same shit, and every week you had to go buy 4 or 5 comic books to continue reading the same story over and over again, the scrolls and all this, and you know what? That's when I stopped collecting comic books, spending $80, $100 a week, and guess what? Half those comic books I never even collected. I never did finish any of those series of comic books. I turned around and walked out of the comic book store and said to myself on the way home, fuck it. No, that's it. I can't do that anymore. Why? You know what? You could still find those on fucking eBay for starting bids 98 cents. So no, I stopped. I stopped buying new comic books. I had no idea what's going on in new comic books. I buy back issues now to fill in some of this in my series. I collect Daredevil. I collect Conan comic books, collect the Fantastic Four, some issues of the Fantastic Four, you know, stuff like that, and old DC comic books and stuff like, you know, comic books. But now they put them, put your comic book in a piece of plastic, right, and sell it to somebody for $1,000. Man. Are there any kids in the hobby today buying comic books? Any 12-year-olds like I was? 14-year-olds? Those days are gone. You know what? We used to call them secondhand bookstores. Not comic book stores. They were secondhand bookstores. Every second block had a friggin' bookstore. Yeah, you used to find old sci-fi books in there. Ace books for like 35 cents. You'd find comic books for 10 cents, 5 cents. You go home with a shopping full of stuff for like a fucking $1. Now, what am I talking about now? Last 20 or 30 years, there's no more secondhand bookstores. The fun's gone out of it. I'm an old fucking... I still collect comic books. I enjoy them, but I feel sorry for all the young people today. Nah, nobody's going to read comic books. All you stupid fucks are out selling all your comic books and putting them in plastic. $1 comic book that was $1 for the last fucking 30 years. Now all of a sudden now it's worth $500 or $1,000 or $2,000. Where did all that shit start? Huh? Plastic. Fuck. I don't have any of my comic books in plastic. Although my kids know some of the comic books I have is worth money, right? I do have some that's worth money. I don't know which ones. How the fuck do I know? I just know that they are. But anyway, comic books today, it's all fucking bullshit. I don't know, you gotta be, who's got $27,000 to buy a comic book? Who's got $80,000 to buy a comic book? Who's got $200,000 to buy a comic book? Don't get me wrong, I know some of them are very valuable. I know that some of them could be only 3 or 4 or 8 issues and they're very scarce and all that shit. I get that, I understand that. That's like anything in life. If there's 8 copies, you can't have 9 people wanting it, or 20 people. There's only going to be 8 people that are able to own that comic book. Unless one of you decide to sell it and make money on it, another $100,000 next year. I get that too. Nothing wrong with that, right? But man, what a fucking mess comic books are in today. And all these saps are on fucking YouTube telling everybody what's going to be up in value. So all the fucking idiots go and buy all these comic books. Yeah, I got comic books that I bought years ago. Still sitting in my boxes, still wrapped up in plastic and all that stuff. But yeah, comic books today, it's a fucking mess. Yeah, anyway. Comic books. I love comic books. I pretty well read a comic book every night when I go to bed. Yeah, Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. I collect those too. I don't have number 1. I got number 2. And I think I need number 5 or 6. That's it. I got everything else. But yeah, so I feel sorry for the kids. Yeah, they're not going to be able to collect comic books because all a bunch of fucking greedy bunch of bastards are out there. There's nothing wrong with making a buck. I'm not begrudging anybody that either, but Brother Voodoo, nobody wanted that one that would print it. And nobody wanted it 2 or 3 years ago. Now all of a sudden it's like $1,000. What a bunch of fucking idiots. No, not me. I ain't buying Brother Voodoo. I think I gave it away years ago. I gave away Night Nurse, 4 of those copies, read them and said, fuck that, and I gave them away. I gave away a lot of comic books over the years. Just gave them away. I put comic books downstairs in the laundry room, set them on the table. I don't want them. I gave them away. I gave them to kids. Yeah. Gave them to the kids down the hallway. Comic books. Put a comic book in a plastic bag. Or a plastic bag. Fuck a piece of hunk of plastic, right? Put some stickers on top and sell it to some sap for $1,000. Go ahead. Nothing wrong with it. More power to you. Anyway, comic books. Yeah, I have no idea. Like I said before, I have no idea what comic books are going for today. I don't even know how much a new comic book is. But yeah, I still got all those comic books I bought back in the early 2000s and the Skrulls and the DC shit and all that. You look at in every comic book, there's like, 8 comic books coming out this week. I'm going, 8 comic books? That's like fucking $40. And 8 next week, $40. And by the end of the month, it's like, fuck, I'm thinking, by the time I buy all these comic books to read this story, it's going to cost me $3,000. Doesn't even cost $6, $8 to buy a pocketbook. It's going to cost me $3,000 to finish this series of comic books off? Nah, I gave up, packed it in and said, fuck that shit. I ain't doing it anymore. But yeah, comic books. I love comic books. I love it. I got all kinds of old shit, comic books. Dell comic books, DC comic books, Tarzan comic books, Rockets Blast, fanzines, Alter Ego, all kinds of shit. All put in fucking boxes sitting in my closet. I got all kinds of hockey cards and baseball cards and craft stuff that Mike worked at. Craft peanut butter, craft hot dogs, craft this, craft macaroni and cheese, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I got it all. I got stuff that was in cereal boxes. I even got cereal boxes. You know, I got the stuffed cards that were in cereal boxes, cards that were on the back of cereal boxes. I did it for the fun of it because I liked it. I liked doing it. I got statues over there. I got comic books hanging on the wall, the glass, because I like doing it. But now comic books, feel sorry for the young people, the kids, the little boys and girls. I used to read Archie and Jughead and like a little Archie. I liked little Archie. You know, now where are those at? You know, Wendy the got Little Witch. You know, Little Lotta. You know, stuff like that. It's all gone. No, it's gone. Now it's comic book business. It's all a bunch of fucking bullshit, and people wanting to get rich. And like I said before, there's nothing wrong with getting rich, but Brother Voodoo? Fuck. Alright. That's a comic book story. Yeah, talk to you later. Happy Father's Day.